The arrogant Kobali Empire mocked human armies as pathetic ants to be crushed, but they would soon learn their fatal mistake, for humans had a secret weapon. An unnatural savagery, warbeasts bred for one purpose, spilling xeno-blood on the battlefields of the galaxy. In the grand halls of the Kobali homeworld, Emperor Cygnus presided over his war council. Cygnus had led the reptilian Kobali to conquer dozens of star systems. His slit pupils now turned hungrily towards the Sol system. The blue-green gem of Earth would be just another conquest. His advisors shared the Emperor's confidence. Top General Zorax boasted of Kobali might. One Kobali warship could burn the primitive humans' fleets to ash. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Earth will fall in mere days. Vector, the Kobali spymaster, nodded in agreement. My agents report the humans have no allies, no advanced weapons. They are alone and helpless before us. Yet a flicker of doubt crossed Cygnus's scaled face. What about these rumors of human warbeasts, creatures of terrible power, trained to slaughter in mankind's wars? Zorax laughed. Propaganda, my lord. Desperate humans clinging to hope. No natural creature could threaten Kobali warriors. Perhaps, Cygnus mused, but I dislike unknowns in a battle plan. Vector, dispatch a scout to this Earth, learn the truth of these warbeasts. Vector bowed. As you command. As the Kobali ship slipped unseen into the dark of space, Lieutenant Robert Williams knelt in the blood-muddied snow. Around him stretched a remote military base, nestled in the Rocky Mountains, a top-secret Earth Defense Force project. Colonel Hawkins, his new commander, loomed over Williams. Forget what you think you know, Lieutenant. You're part of Project Fenrir now. We've kept it quiet, but this is Earth's real plan for the alien invasion. Hawkins nodded to a nearby soldier. With the hiss of hydraulics, a reinforced cage door ground open. A beast emerged from the shadows. It was a massive hound, larger than a tiger, midnight fur bristling with barely restrained aggression. Powerful muscles rippled beneath its hide. Piercing amber eyes, alight with unnatural intelligence, locked onto Williams. Meet Fenrir, Hawkins said. A direct genetic descendant of the dire wolves and saber-toothed cats, but better, stronger, faster, smarter than any dog, and psychically linked to its handler. You, Williams, if he likes you. We've made a pack of these things. Maybe our only hope against these scaly Kobali bastards. You're going to learn to work with them, and fast. Williams met the beast's unblinking gaze. He wasn't sure if he was looking at a dog, a weapon, or a monster. But if this was what stood between humanity and alien enslavement, he'd see it done. No one, not the Kobali, not his fellow humans, yet knew what Fenrir and his pack would soon unleash against Earth's enemies, how red alien blood would flow, how the Kobali would learn to fear the snarl of a human warbeast. But they would all find out soon enough. High above the snow-capped peaks of the Rocky Mountains, a cloaked Kobali scout ship hung in the night sky, invisible to human eyes and senses. Inside the sleek vessel, Scout Captain Zahn peered intently at the holographic display, his reptilian features bathed in an eerie blue glow. The ship's advanced sensors probed the secret military base below, where Lieutenant Williams and the fearsome war dog Fenrir were undergoing their intense training regimen. Zahn's eyes widened as the scanner data streamed in, revealing the extraordinary vital signs emanating from the genetically engineered beasts. The war dog's strength, speed, and aggression levels were off the charts, far exceeding anything the Kobali had encountered before. A cunning and ambitious officer, Zahn immediately realized the grave threat these creatures posed to the impending Kobali invasion of Earth. He knew he had to act quickly and decisively. These warbeasts could be our undoing, Zahn muttered, his voice a rasping whisper. We must capture one for study, to unravel their secrets and turn them against their human masters. Turning to his hand-picked team of elite Kobali infiltrators, Zahn outlined his audacious plan. In the dead of night, they would breach the base's perimeter, using their advanced stealth technology to evade detection. Once inside, they would make their way to the war dog kennels and secure a prize specimen. perhaps even the mighty Fenrir himself. As darkness fell, Zahn and his team materialized within the base, their cloaked forms slipping past oblivious human sentries. They crept through the shadows, closing in on their target. The kennels loomed ahead, the war dogs slumbering within. But as the infiltrators approached Fenrir's cage, the huge beast stirred, as if sensing their alien presence. Piercing amber eyes snapped open, and a deep, rumbling growl built in the war dog's chest. Suddenly, Fenrir unleashed a deafening howl that shattered the night's silence. The alarm was raised, and the base erupted into chaos. Williams, Hawkins, and their soldiers rushed to confront the intruders, while the other war dogs, roused by Fenrir's cry, strained against their cages, eager to join the fray. A fierce battle erupted between the humans and the Kobali infiltrators. Energy weapons flashed and sizzled, illuminating the darkness. The war dogs, freed from their kennels, leapt into the melee with shocking ferocity. Fenrir himself lunged at Zahn, his massive jaws clamping down on the Kobali's armored forearm. The scout captain screamed in pain and terror as he felt the incredible power of the war dog's bite, even through his advanced battlesuit. With a desperate wrench, Zahn managed to pull free, leaving a jagged piece of his armor behind in Fenrir's mouth. Realizing the mission was a failure, Zahn barked a frantic retreat order. The battered Kobali infiltrators fell back, fighting a rearguard action as they fled towards their hidden ship. Williams, Fenrir, and the other soldiers harried them every step of the way, determined to drive the alien invaders from their base. As the scout ship blasted off into the night sky, Williams and Hawkins stood amid the smoking wreckage of the kennels, their faces grim. They knew the Kobali would not take this defeat lightly. The existence of the war dogs had been discovered, and an invasion was surely imminent. "We need to mobilize every defense Earth has," Hawkins growled. "And we're going to need allies, other species the Kobali have trampled over. It's time to take this fight to them." Williams nodded, looking down at Fenrir. The war dog's hide was scarred and bloody, but his eyes gleamed with a fierce, indomitable spirit. The bond between man and beast had been forged in battle, and would only grow stronger in the trials to come. Meanwhile, in the grand halls of the Kobali homeworld, Emperor Cygnus listened to Zahn's grim report with a mix of fascination and unease. These war beasts were a complication he had not anticipated, a potential threat to his plans of conquest. "Accelerate the invasion," Cygnus commanded. "We must strike before the humans can marshal their full strength." He turned to Vector, his spymaster. "And you, my shadow, your task is to capture these creatures alive. Study them, find their weaknesses. If we can turn them to our cause, they may yet prove our most potent weapon." As the Kobali war machine rumbled into motion and the galaxy teetered on the precipice of total war, Williams and Fenrir returned to their training with renewed intensity and purpose. The bond between them grew deeper and more profound with each passing day. The dark clouds above the Rocky Mountains were split by the fiery trails of Kobali dropships, their hulls glinting in the sun as they descended towards Earth's surface. In the secret base below, Williams and Fenrir prepared for the coming battle, along with the other war dog units and their handlers. Colonel Hawkins addressed the assembled soldiers, his face grim. "We're outnumbered and outgunned, but we have one advantage the Kobali don't know about. The war dogs have the ability to merge with their handlers, forming a new breed of soldier, the Warbeasts." Williams looked at Fenrir, uncertainty in his eyes. The bond between them was strong, but this merging was something else entirely. Fenrir met his gaze, a quiet confidence in his amber eyes. They would face this together, as they always had. As the Kobali ships grew larger in the sky, Williams made his decision. He and Fenrir stepped into the merging chamber, the door hissing shut behind them. There was a blinding flash of light, a searing pain, and then something new. They emerged from the chamber, no longer man and dog, but a single being. Williams could feel Fenrir's strength flowing through him, could hear and smell with a predator's keen senses. They were a war beast, a fusion of human intelligence and animal ferocity. Around them, The other war dog units underwent the same transformation. In moments, a pack of warbeasts stood ready, eager to meet the Kobali in battle. The ground shook as the dropships landed, disgorging ranks of Kobali soldiers and armored vehicles. The invaders marched towards the human defenses, their weapons charged and ready. But they were not prepared for what came next. The warbeasts surged forward, Williams and Fenrir at the head of the pack. They hit the Kobali lines like a tidal wave, tearing through armor and flesh with savage efficiency. Williams felt Fenrir's mind melding with his own, guiding their shared body in a deadly dance. They were faster and stronger than any Kobali, their reflexes honed to a razor's edge. The alien soldiers fell before them, their formations disintegrating into chaos. On the Kobali flagship high above, Emperor Cygnus watched the battle unfold with a mix of rage and fascination. These warbeasts were like nothing he had ever seen, a perfect fusion of human and beast. They would make a fine addition to his menagerie, if they could be taken alive. "Vector," he snapped, "I want one of those creatures captured, do you understand? Send in your best infiltrators. Bring me a warbeast, no matter the cost." Vector bowed, already signaling his chosen operatives. The mercenary Kazan and his team would hunt down a warbeast, a task that would require all their skills and cunning. As the battle raged on, Williams and Fenrir suddenly sensed a presence stalking them from the shadows. They broke away from the main fight, luring their pursuers into the maze of a ruined building. In the cramped, dark corridors, the hunters became the hunted. Williams Fenrir moved with predatory grace, their senses attuned to every sound and scent. One by one, Kazan's infiltrators fell, until only the mercenary himself was left. Kazan was good, one of the best, but he had never faced a foe like Williams Fenrir before. In the end, it was no contest. The warbeast cornered Kazan in a dead-end room, their eyes glinting in the darkness. "What are you?" Kazan whispered, fear and awe in his voice. Williams Fenrir smiled, a baring of fangs. "We are Earth's vengeance," they growled. "We are your doom." And then they lunged, claws and teeth bared, ready to finish the job they had started. Kazan's heart pounded as he moved through the shadows of the abandoned building, his team close behind. They had tracked the warbeast to this location, but now, stalking through the dark corridors, he felt a growing sense of unease. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind through shattered windows, set his nerves on edge. Suddenly a low growl echoed from the darkness ahead. Kazan froze, his hand tightening on his weapon. He knew that sound, had heard it in the heat of battle. The warbeast was here, waiting for them. A blur of movement, a flash of teeth and claws, and one of Kazan's men screamed. The mercenary spun, firing blindly into the shadows, but the warbeast was already gone, melting back into the darkness. Kazan cursed under his breath. They were outmatched, he realized with a sinking feeling. The warbeast was toying with them, picking them off one by one. He had one last chance, one desperate gambit. Reaching into his pack, Kazan pulled out a small spherical device, a sonic grenade, designed to disorient and paralyze the warbeasts. It was untested, but it was all he had left. Taking a deep breath, Kazan primed the grenade and tossed it down the corridor. A moment later, a deafening boom shook the building, followed by a high-pitched, grating whine that seemed to drill into Kazan's skull. From somewhere ahead he heard a howl of agony, half human, half beast. The warbeast stumbled into view, clutching at its head, its movements jerky and uncoordinated. Kazan didn't hesitate. He barked an order to his surviving team members, and they surged forward, converging on the stricken warbeast. Stun batons crackled, energy nets hummed, and the creature that had once been Williams and Fenrir collapsed, twitching to the floor. Panting, Kazan stood over the fallen warbeast. Part of him marveled at the sleek, deadly beauty of the thing, even now, but there was no time for admiration. They had to move quickly, before the warbeast's allies realized what had happened. "Get it to the ship," Kazan ordered, "and pray the restraints hold." As his team hauled the unconscious warbeast away, Kazan allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. Against all odds, they had succeeded in their mission. But even as he followed his men back to the waiting ship, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Miles above the Earth, in the cold, sterile confines of a Kobali holding cell, Williams Fenrir awoke to a world of pain. Every nerve in their shared body screamed in agony, the after-effects of the sonic grenade still echoing through their system. They tried to move, to stand, but found themselves held fast by crackling energy fields that constricted like chains around their limbs. A low growl built in their throat as they strained against the bonds, but it was no use. They were trapped, helpless. A flicker of movement caught their eye, and Williams Fenrir looked up to see a view screen set into the wall of their cell. The screen hummed to life, and a face appeared, a face out of nightmare, all scales and teeth and cold reptilian eyes. "Emperor Cygnus," Williams Fenrir snarled, their voice a guttural blend of human and beast. "To what do we owe this pleasure?" Cygnus leaned forward, his gaze piercing even through the screen. "You fascinate me, creature," he hissed. "This merging of human and animal, it is unlike anything we have encountered. You will tell me how it is done." Williams Fenrir met the Emperor's stare with a defiant glare of their own. They said nothing, their silence a wall of resolve. Cygnus's eyes narrowed. "You will tell me," he repeated, "or you will suffer. The choice is yours." And with that the screen went dark, leaving Williams Fenrir alone in the cold humming silence of their cell. They didn't have to wait long. Mere moments after Cygnus's image faded, the pain began. It started as a tingling in their extremities, an itch that quickly built to a searing burn. Williams Fenrir howled, their body convulsing against the energy bonds, but there was no escape, no respite. The Kobali were nothing if not efficient in their cruelty. The torture went on for hours, days, an endless cycle of agony and brief, gasping respites. Through it all, Cygnus's voice echoed in their mind, a serpentine whisper demanding they reveal their secrets. But Williams Fenrir held fast, clinging to their silence like a lifeline. They would not betray their people, their pack, no matter the cost. On Earth, in the war-torn ruins of the Rocky Mountain base, Colonel Hawkins paced like a caged beast. The news of Williams Fenrir's capture had hit the Warbeasts like a shockwave, shattering their morale and their sense of invincibility. Hawkins knew they had to act, and quickly. If the Kobali unlocked the secrets of the merging process, if they created their own army of Warbeasts, it would be the end. For the war dogs, for humanity, for everyone. He gathered his team, the best and brightest of the Warbeasts. There was Odin, his own partner, a grey-furred giant with eyes like steel, Sergeant Reese and Titan, a woman and beast of unbreakable will, and Nakamura and Cage, a pair as swift and silent as shadows. "We're going after them," Hawkins told his assembled team. "We're going to infiltrate Cygnus's flagship, and we're going to bring our people home, whatever it takes." The Warbeasts nodded, grim determination etched on their faces. They knew the risks, knew the odds were stacked against them, but they also knew they had no choice. As they made their preparations, a message came through on a secure channel. It was from the Kobali rebels, those few who dared to oppose Cygnus's tyrannical rule. "We can help you," the rebel leader said, their voice distorted by encryption. "We can get you onto the flagship undetected, but you must trust us." Hawkins frowned, his instincts warring with his desperation. The rebels were an unknown quantity, and he had learned the hard way never to trust easily. But what choice did they have? Time was running out for Williams Fenrir, for all of them. "We'll meet," Hawkins said at last, "but on neutral ground, and if I even suspect a trap." He let the threat hang in the air, unspoken but clear. The meeting was arranged on a derelict space station, a rusting hulk spinning in the void. Hawkins and his team arrived in a cloaked shuttle, their senses on high alert. They were greeted by a lone figure, cloaked and hooded. As they approached, the figure raised its hands in a gesture of peace. "Colonel Hawkins," the rebel said, throwing back its hood. "I am Zarn. I believe we have much to discuss." Hawkins stared at the Kobali, recognition dawning. Zahn, the scout captain who had first discovered the existence of the Warbeasts, the one who had tried to capture Fenrir all those weeks ago. His hand tightened on his weapon, but he held himself in check. "Talk," he growled, "and make it quick." Zahn nodded, his eyes darting nervously to the Warbeast flanking Hawkins. "Cygnus has gone too far," he said. "His rule is a blight on our people, on the galaxy. We want to help you stop him." Hawkins's eyes narrowed. "And why should we trust you?" he asked. "After everything your kind has done." Zahn met his gaze steadily. "Because we have no other choice," he said. "And neither do you. I can get you onto Cygnus's ship. I know its secrets, its weaknesses. Without me, you will never reach your captured comrade in time." Hawkins was silent for a long moment, weighing his options. Beside him, Odin growled softly, a rumble of warning. But in the end, there was only one path forward, one chance to save William's Fenrir, to turn the tide of this war. "All right," Hawkins said at last. "We'll do it your way for now." He turned to his team, saw the resolve in their eyes, human and beast alike. They were ready, he knew, ready to face whatever lay ahead. "But mark my words," Hawkins said, turning back to Zahn. "If you betray us, if this is some kind of trick, there will be nowhere in this galaxy you can hide. We will hunt you down, and we will end you." Zahn swallowed hard, but nodded. "Understood," he said. "Now let's go. Your friend is waiting." And with that, the unlikely allies set off, bound for the heart of the Kobali Empire, and the greatest challenge they had ever faced. The corridors of Cygnus's flagship were a labyrinth of shadows and echoes, each footfall a potential alarm, each breath a betrayal. Zahn moved through the gloom with the ease of familiarity, his steps swift and sure. Behind him, Hawkins and the other Warbeasts followed, their senses straining for any hint of danger. At last they reached the detention block, its reinforced doors looming like the maw of some great beast. Zahn paused, his hand hovering over the control panel. "Your friend is within," he whispered, his voice a sibilant hiss. "But be warned. The Emperor has taken a personal interest in this one. The defenses will be formidable." Hawkins nodded, his jaw tight. He could feel Odin's tension thrumming through their bond, a coiled spring ready to snap. "We're ready," he growled. "Open it." The doors slid open with a hiss of pneumatics, revealing a long, dimly lit corridor lined with cells. At the far end, a single door stood apart, guarded by a phalanx of Kobali soldiers. And there, suspended in a web of crackling energy fields, was William's Fenrir. Hawkins's heart clenched at the sight of his friend. The Warbeast's once proud form was battered and broken, its fur matted with blood and sweat. But even now, even through the haze of pain, Hawkins could see the defiant gleam in those amber eyes. They were halfway down the corridor when the alarms began to blare. The Kobali soldiers sprang into action, their weapons humming to life. But before they could fire, a massive viewscreen flickered on, dominating the far wall. Emperor Cygnus's face loomed over them, his eyes alight with malicious glee. "Foolish humans," he hissed, his voice dripping with contempt. "Did you really think I would let you walk into my stronghold unopposed, that I would trust the word of a traitor?" Zahn's face twisted into a sneer, all pretense of alliance falling away. "You were so easy to deceive," he laughed, his finger hovering over a small device on his wrist. "So desperate to save your precious comrade, and now you will share his fate." He pressed the button, and the world dissolved into agony. A sickly green mist flooded the corridor, pouring from hidden vents in the walls. It coiled around the Warbeasts like a living thing, invading their lungs, their eyes, their very pores. They collapsed to the floor, their bodies convulsing, their howls of pain mingling with the blaring of the alarms. Through the haze of agony, Hawkins saw the Kobali guards closing in, their stun batons crackling with energy. He tried to rise, to fight, but his limbs would not obey. Beside him, Odin twitched and whimpered, his eyes rolling back in his head. It was over. They had failed. And then, a roar split the air, a sound of such fury and anguish that it seemed to shake the very walls. Williams, Fenrir, their body racked with pain, their mind afire with rage, surged against their bonds. The energy fields crackled and strained, then shattered like glass. The warbeast lunged forward, a blur of fangs and claws and unbridled savagery. They fell upon Zaan like a thunderbolt, their jaws clamping down on the traitor's throat. The Kabali screamed, a high, thin sound that ended in a gurgle as his lifeblood sprayed across the floor. Chaos erupted. The Kobali guards, momentarily stunned by the sight of their captain's brutal death, fell back in disarray. Hawkins and the other war beasts, galvanized by Williams Fenrir's example, staggered to their feet, fighting through the pain and the disorientation. They met the guards head-on, a clash of fang and claw against stun baton and blaster. It was a brutal, desperate struggle, fought in close quarters and choked with the stench of blood and mist. But the war beasts, driven by rage and desperation, would not be denied. They broke through the guard line, leaving a trail of broken bodies in their wake. But even as they emerged into the corridors beyond, they knew their fight was far from over. Alarms were blaring throughout the ship, and the tramp of booted feet echoed from every direction. They were cut off, outnumbered and wounded, but they were not beaten, not yet. Hawkins gathered his team with a glance, his mind racing. "We have to cripple this ship," he growled, his voice ragged with pain. "Split up, plant the charges. We'll rendezvous at the escape pods." Williams, Fenrir, their flanks heaving, their fur matted with blood both alien and their own, met Hawkins' gaze. In that moment, human and beast were separate once more, their bond stretched to the breaking point by the strain of battle. "I'll hold them off," Williams rasped, his voice a bare whisper. "Buy you the time you need." Fenrir whined, a sound of anguish and protest, but Williams silenced him with a look. "It's the only way," he said softly. "The only way to make sure this ends." There was no time for goodbyes, no time for tears, only a final, fleeting moment of connection, a silent promise exchanged between partners, between friends. Then Williams, Fenrir turned and loped back down the corridor, a lone figure against the oncoming tide. The other warbeasts scattered, each pair taking a different route into the heart of the ship. They moved with grim purpose, their steps haunted by the echoes of battle, by the knowledge of the sacrifice being made in their name. They planted their charges with swift efficiency, working through the pain, the exhaustion, the gnawing fear. And then they ran, racing for the escape pods, even as the ship shuddered and groaned around them, the first of the explosions already tearing at its guts. They barely made it. The pods blasted free just as the flagship's hull ruptured, a series of massive explosions ripping through its structure. The shockwaves buffeted the tiny craft, sending them tumbling end over end into the void. And from their viewports, the survivors watched in numb silence as the mighty vessel shattered, consumed in a blossom of fire and debris. Somewhere in that maelstrom, they knew, Williams Fenrir was making their final stand, a lone war beast against an empire's might. They had known, all of them, that this was a mission from which some might not return, but the reality of it, the finality, hit them like a hammer blow. They had won, yes, but the cost had been so very high. In the pod's cramped confines, Hawkins bowed his head, his shoulders shaking with grief and exhaustion. Odin pressed close, offering what comfort he could, his own heart heavy with loss. There would be time for mourning later, time to honor the fallen as they deserved, but for now there was still work to be done. The Kobali Empire was wounded, reeling, but it was not yet defeated. Earth needed its warbeasts now more than ever, and Hawkins and his pack would answer that call, would carry on the fight in the name of those who could not. For Williams, for Fenrir, for all the comrades who had given their lives so that others might live free. The war was far from over, but with the memory of the fallen to drive them, with the bond between human and beast to sustain them. They would not fail. They could not. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.